Make no mistake, being an entrepreneur is tough. You're trying to build a business, manage a team, deliver your product or service, and of course, make more money, all while trying to eat healthy and get to the gym, raise your kids, and maybe even make it to date night more than twice a year. So, when hustling harder doesn't work for you, how do you find the time, energy, and skills to build the business you want while being the parent and partner your family deserves? My name is Nick Murphy, and this is the Parentpreneur Podcast.
Hey there, and welcome back. I'm really excited to get into this next conversation. Jordache Johnson. Jordache is an 80s baby with a hippie mother who named him after her favorite brand of jeans. I love that, dude. It's just like the coolest bio in the world. Jordache helps online course creators, coaches, and thought leaders learn how to harness the power of chat marketing to grow their lists and fill their courses and calendars so that they can scale their profits and make a bigger impact on their audience and on their family. I mean, can you see why it aligns? Like, Jordache, I'm excited to have you. How are you, bud?
Doing well, man. I'm excited to be here, man. I'm honored. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Let's start at the beginning, right, of your journey. Walk me through your career, kind of what you thought you were going to be doing and what led you to this space where you created a business around chat marketing. Because let's be real, chat marketing didn't exist until relatively recently.
Totally. No, it's been a fun journey so far, man. I'll say, well, I'll start with this, man. I wanted to be a firefighter growing up, man, like when I was a little kid. But when I was going to college, I was finance accounting was my background. I loved investments. I loved numbers. It was just something I kind of fell into in the business side of things. But I always knew at some point I was going to own my own business. Like I always had something on the side, right? I was telling a story about this the other day. You remember Netflix had 3 DVDs at a time. You'd actually DVDs in the mail.
Yeah, the red envelopes you had to mail back.
Yeah. So you'd get like 3 at a time for X amount per month, right? So this is my early days, man. I'd get the DVDs. I'd sit there. I figured out I can get 3 at a time. I'd burn them, send them back the next day. So I'd get about 25, 30 copies of DVDs every month. And then I'd rent them to people on my dorm room floor, right? So I'd always have some little hustle going on. So I always knew I was going to be some, entrepreneur somewhere.
Somewhere saw like the big FBI warning at the beginning that says, don't do that, right?
But here's the thing is, but the reality was they weren't paying me for the DVD. Dude, I was selling popcorn and I let them borrow one of my movies, man.
Ooh,
it was just, I wasn't making copies and selling them. I was selling popcorn with a bonus. So
I like that. That's slick.
No, I'm just joking. But anyway, I tell you that story because I went the corporate route, right? And, I was always told at a young age, go to college, get good grades, go get a good job, right? So I graduated in 2008, right? Worst time I ever graduated, the finance degree and accounting degree, but I was blessed I want to get to Wall Street. I want to do investments. That was my jam. That's what I want to get to. Got with a good company out in Virginia. Long story short, man, 2.5 years of corporate, I was like I felt like a robot, couldn't be myself, but there was a lot of good things I learned, right? And sometimes you got to learn what the other side of the fence is like before you make this jump into this crazy world we call entrepreneurship, right? But long story short, after that experience, I ended up going to grad school because I was like, what do I want to kind of do next? Went to grad school, but it was more so around technology commercialization. So how do I take an idea and bring it to market, right? And so that was an awesome experience. I met a couple guys in there and we launched a SaaS company, right? I was a co-founder of a SaaS company. That was my first dive into entrepreneurship, I would say, outside of just doing consulting. And that was my mindset was like, startup entrepreneurship, Silicon Valley, like venture capital, like that was my vision of what entrepreneur was at that time, right? And that's the path I went down. Now we raised money, right? We raised 7 figures. We had a product, we had partnerships with IBM, we got exposure. But what that experience led me down was I ended up leaving the company ultimately because we couldn't figure out how to build a community, how to actually do digital marketing. No one, I had an engineer, I had a developer, and myself were the co-founders. And we were trying to outsource something we didn't really understand, right? Yeah. And that just it was banging the heads, right? And so at that breakup, I remember I drove to Starbucks, had me my business partner. He was like, it felt like breaking up with a girlfriend, right? Like I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to ruin this relationship. We got a good guy, but like he's like, I'm surprised we stayed together this long. But it was one of those things. I remember driving in my car, and it was like, I will never put myself in a situation again where there was a good opportunity, where there was a market fit, but digital marketing didn't exist. We didn't understand that. So from that was 2012. And from that journey on, I went heads deep into the digital marketing space, building websites, doing funnels, Facebook ads, all this other stuff. And I always lean back on this this quote from Steve Jobs. I heard it in 2007. It was from his speech in 2005, right? And there was one line that says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You only can connect the dots looking backwards, right? Yep. And so that was like my approach to this was like, anytime I had an experience to learn something around the digital marketing space, I'm going to go do UX UI design, right? I was getting deep into that, right? And so it was just like being able to take those nuggets now led me into, okay, I started in an agency, right? And that's when my agency started. And I was really focused on, at that time, web development, list building, things along those spaces, right? I was once again, this is 2017 or so, 2016. I was at a conference, got approached a month or so after this conference, got approached by a startup in Austin, right? And they were in the slowish 7 figures and they were trying to scale. And I was like, this is somebody I knew that I followed online, had an awesome brand, et cetera. And I was like, oh my gosh, like they came to me and offered me a job. And I was like, look, I'm not going to work for somebody. Like, I'm not going to be an employee again, right? Yeah. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. But then I took a couple of days and thought about it and started peeling the onion back. And I was like, the opportunity I was going to have, what I was going to learn from this experience and being able to be inside a company that's trying to scale at this level, that was huge for me. So I was like, I took that experience. That led me to coaching about 450 bloggers, digital course creators, e-commerce, all around list building and website conversions. And I did that for 2 years. And that built my network. That allowed me to started being exposed to a whole bunch of different business models and how people are running their business and things like that. And from there, I left after 2.5 years, and then I started my agency again. And that was really into funnels. And I was building, this was as of last year in 2018, I'm building funnels for course creators. I'm doing, the whole shebang, running Facebook ads, things like that.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, I revisited, this was probably November of 2018. I sat there and there was a webinar I registered for. I was like, let me touch back into this chatbot space. Cause up to this point, my experience with chatbots, like I'm assuming a lot of others people's it's a live chat, right? It's a tool on a website that people are going to chat with your customer service or support, right? And now it's starting to understand, well, hey, Meg, there was this rise all of a sudden in these last year and a half of like this, I call it the wild, wild west of this new tool. Yeah. And then all of a sudden people are like, well, it's peaked now because Facebook's cracking down on something, putting rules in place. And we can talk more about that later. But all of a sudden at that point in time, when I saw this webinar and in early 2018, it was late 2018, that's when all these dots started getting connected, because all of a sudden when I started seeing the potential where this tool is at now, I started seeing how this affects almost every aspect of the business, right? From sales to marketing to operations to things like this, and how this tool can be the glue or the power horse in your toolkit when it comes to, it doesn't matter how you're playing in the digital space, Facebook, Pinterest, blog posts, audio, or podcast, speaking, whatever it is, this tool is going to be able to supercharge whatever you're doing, plus bring in new revenues to build your list and things along that way. So earlier this year, man, I pivoted my whole agency to say, we're on chat marketing because I see where it's at now and I see where it's going, and being able to start diving into this world and start understanding how invested Facebook is in Messenger specifically, and how they own Instagram, and how they own WhatsApp and things along these ways. Like, this is how we communicate in the world and we're in today, right? And so this space is only growing, and it's only going to get more and more exciting as we get rocking. So that's how I ended up in having a chat marketing spot and what I'm building my program on as well outside of my agency. So
that's absolutely awesome. I think there's so many people, myself included, who can relate to that story. You come out of school, you do the corporate thing, you're like, you go to grad school, you dabble in startups. I had the same dream, and my goal, even 3, 4, 5 years ago, was to sell a company for $100 million. And because someone told me that if you had $30 million in the bank, you live off the interest and do whatever you want. Like, that was the number, that was the goal, right? So, but then you go work in that space, you see corporate, you see shareholders, you look at CEOs, you watch the news, and I had family and kids, and they started to get older, and I was busy, and I'm like, man, this just doesn't seem like the thing. What I love about your story is that it's only been 7 years since 2012 grad school, right? Yep. In internet years, that's like 2.5 centuries. But it wasn't that long ago, and you pivoted, and you tweaked, and you moved. But it's very obvious from your story that you're a sharp dude, that you're opportunistic, that you're well networked, and that you have a vision for what you do. And then the digital marketing piece, I love that you dove all in on the gap that you had in the business. You didn't go try to start another company knowing what you knew in the first startup with the SaaS company. You went and really explored and became an expert on the gap that you had that kept the company from sticking together. And so I love that story. But just at the highest level, we're going to talk about audience. People might be going like, all right, well, where are we going with this? At the highest level, how do you define chat marketing, and how does it relate to course creators, membership site owners, coaches, building an audience that they can sell to?
Totally. So I kind of break this down into 3 levels, okay? And this is how we're going to tie chat marketing with some of the things I was messing like messenger bots or chat bots, because all these words kind of get used and they're kind of ambiguous to other people out there. So chat marketing in itself, this is the channel that we're building, right? And chat marketing, the definition I use is we're using conversations to really build, to attract people, and then to keep the conversation going as well, right? To build that relationship. Because if you think about it from just a human to human type thing, and this is how people want to be having this is how they want to be treated. They want to have this human connection. You're not buying from a brand, you're buying from a person, right? And this is why you're building. Everybody has a personal brand. I don't care who you are, right? There has to be a personal brand. Yep. And so chat marketing is being able to humanize your brand, but being able to have this in a conversational way, right? So you have this chat marketing. And then within chat marketing, we have different tools that we use to be able to have these conversations, right? One of these tools is a chatbot, right? We have SMS as well as another way to be able to have these conversations, and RCS, which is coming out, and all these other things, these other ways that we're having these rich conversations in a one-to-one human-like interaction, right? That's what a chatbot is having a conversation or engaging with somebody or audience member in a human-like interaction, right? And leading them to a specific goal. And now when we talk about messenger bot is a specific type of chatbot, right? And so that's what a messenger bot is. Just we're using Facebook's messenger platform, and that's all that is. So that's how I kind of define it. But at the simplistic level, chat marketing is basically using conversations to attract, engage, and build a relationship with your audience.
So how does it work? I mean, there's tools, and we can dig into kind of the weeds a little bit, but I want to say pretty high level, like how does a chat bot work? And I think a lot of people hear bot, and whether it's from like the news and like these trolls and bots on the internet that are sending out fake information, or whether it's a bot, like I'm going to invite a bot into my business, I'm going to let it talk to and attract my customers. Like, whoa, how does it actually work?
Yeah, great question. So it's not like it's this supercomputer that's all of a sudden like learning kind of what you're saying and having like replicating exactly what you're saying, right? That's not what it is. It's not this. And the word bot has this negative connotation, like you said, is because the automation on Twitter and things like that people are spamming and things like that. Yep. So what we're talking about is a messenger bot, where all this is a tool that connects to your Facebook page. If you think about it on a simplistic level, that uses the messenger platform. So how you communicate already with your friends, your peers on Facebook and the direct messaging, all we're doing is we're putting a tool that connects that, okay? And then once we have this tool connected, I call them adventures, okay? Or flows if you want to hear another way, right? But if you think about, there's this choose your own adventure books, right? Yep. And so you think about that, it's like you tell a story and then you give somebody a choice to say, do you want to go down this path or you want to go down this path? And then you lead them down that path, okay? And then they come to another decision point, right? It's like a decision tree. And so that's all we're building inside your messenger platform, your message on your Facebook page, is we're building these messaging adventures where we attract people to these adventures and then lead them down those adventures. And that's all that's happening really inside this messenger bot, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah, we're going to use my business as an example, because I've got a book, I've got a podcast, I've got group coaching, I've got a membership site that's coming out early 2020. Someone comes and they find my brand. They stumble across a personal brand from the podcast, the book, or wherever. What is a good example of how that chatbot inside Messenger could actually add value to that interaction by pointing someone where they want to go next in a way that doesn't require me in Messenger on my phone with 3 kids jumping around behind me to get that information to them? First,
like before we dive into those specifics, I think I just wrote those down in the book, the podcast, the events, because we talk about that in a second. But just want to take a second to think about how you're communicating with your audience already, right? So everybody talks about building an email list, and that's very important because you own that list. You're not playing on somebody else's platform and all that good stuff, right? Everybody knows the importance of the email list. Now, what you got to think about this is, if you look at your email stats on average, 1 out of 5 people or whatever is 20 out of 100 people, 20% of people are going to even open your message. So only 1 out of 5 people are even going to see your message, and then even less are going to be clicking through it, right? 2-ish%, I think is the average. And so you got to think about this is like, you always got to ask yourself why, right? Why am I using this? Why am I building a list? Why am I creating this lead magnet? Why am I promoting this book? Things like that, right? And so when you understand that, you understand, okay, we'll use one of your examples, right? You have your book, right? You got to have a launch for your book. Your goal is to sell your book. Your goal is to get your book into more people's hands, whether you're selling it or giving it away, right? Or using it as the beginning of your funnel.
For sure.
The reality comes down to it is in the beginning, you're building up the demand for it, right? You're going to do the pre-launch side of things, right? So whether you're doing Facebook Lives, whether you're putting posts on your Facebook page, whether you're using Instagram, whether you're using YouTube, or you're using your podcast, whatever it is, all those channels can be used. And then you can use your messenger bots to be able to capture their information in a way they're already used to be able to use right now. So let me throw some stats at you for a second. Right now, there are 1.3 billion people using Facebook Messenger every month actively, okay? So, and the reality is there's 20 billion messages being exchanged between businesses and consumers actively every month. So you're going to a place, your job as a business owner to get your message across, you got to go where people are comfortable communicating with and already there. Your job is a lot easier than trying to get somebody to communicate with you or get your message where you're trying to get them to communicate. Go where they're already at. Go where they're already communicating. And then once you're in there, it's not like an email form or email opt-in form where it's like capture your email address, send you to a thank you page, and hopefully you click on a link to add it to a calendar or add me to a Facebook group or whatever it is. Yeah. Now we're having a one-on-one conversation inside Messenger where it's like all of a sudden you do a Facebook post saying, hey, if you want to be able to be somebody to enter a giveaway to win one of my 10 copies to my book that's coming out, enter down on my post VIP. And then once they enter VIP, all of a sudden your messenger bot communicates to that person, says, hey, do you want to enter your contest? Yes. Right then and there, I got you on my messenger list. And then we continue the conversation by being able to ask you questions, whether we want to learn more about you, whether we want to get your email address so we can share it to your active campaign or whoever you're using. And then I got you registered. Now I can communicate to you any new events I got coming up, anything along those lines. So now I'm actually having a conversation with you and learning more about you that I can share with my email platform and things like that. That's how we can just do it in the pre-launch. Once you launch, we can, if you do a video series, no matter what your launch vehicle is, we can do that, right? That's just around launching any product, whether it's a book or whatever like that. So there's specific strategies that we use in your pre-launch, in your launch, in your post-launch, no matter what kind of product you're offering, whether it's a book, a course, a program, whatever it may be, right? And then that's how we can do it from a product launch standpoint. Do you want to go into the podcast? Do you want to go into the event side of things? Or do you want to dive more deeper into that?
Well, let's take it at a high level. I'm trying to give people a visualization of what this chatbot is. And to me, it's almost like it's almost like the flex capacitor, if you will, from like Back to the Future, where like people are coming into your world and then the bot is basically, you're setting it up with specific triggers based on intent to pass them to the content that makes the most sense for them in the next phase of their journey. Is there anything you'd add to that, or is that?
No, I think, and that's when what I said in the beginning, like this tool starts becoming the hub of your business, right? Because at the end of the day, you have this universe out there, you attract people to your universe, whether that's on YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, whatever it is. Then the next level is get them on your list. And this tool can be used to connect all those different platforms you're already using to get them and engaging with, not only just get them on your list, but you can start learning their preferences, learning about them that you can use in future messaging and to personalize your messaging going forward to that user or that audience member. But it is your hub that then starts connecting other aspects of your business, your email marketing, your content marketing, your event marketing, things along those lines as well. That's why it's this glue that can service all your other channels as well as stand out on its own, because we have 13 ways to get somebody on your messenger list, whether you're speaking live in person or somebody online, versus the 2 ways that I can get you on my email list by filling out a form or doing a Facebook ad right now.
Yeah, no, I love that. Let's give another use case. You talked, that's a great example about pre-launch. You don't have to use mine. I was just for context trying to give people a visualization, but that's a pre-launch strategy you just ran through. What if, let's just use the same example. We're all sitting here on a virtual summit. Yep. If I had a summit and day 4 was about to come out, how could I use a messenger bot in that way to make sure that people show up and are aware of what's going on?
Yeah. So if you're already inside the launch, so obviously you want somebody on, you have to get somebody on your messenger list. I want to make that clear to be able to communicate to them. So we've already been communicating them through messenger.
Yeah, let's assume we did that. Everybody who registered, a percentage of them opt into the messenger list. And now I'm able to contact them legally and ethically and the right way through messenger.
Yeah, totally. So the good thing is, and this is great, this is one of the powers of messenger is you can send out, they call it a broadcast, right? Or somebody that's on your list. So when let's say you're going live on day 4 of your summit, or you're getting ready to, a new speaker is going to be coming up. Anybody who was interested in that speaker, if you got that information, you can let them know through messenger, hey, this person's about to go live in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever you're sending a message out, click here now, and then it can open up that window right then and there, right? So that's how you can get people live to your events, whether that's our Facebook Live or some speaker on the summit, right? The other thing too is during those and this just depends on what you're doing in your summit. If you're doing giveaways, you can get people engaging as well as with getting people engaged with your content as well. So whatever you're sharing during those days, you're going to get higher open rates. We get anywhere, like you see typically anywhere 60 to 80% open rates compared to the 20% you're seeing with email. So more people are seeing your message. And then as well as since it's in an engaging, and when you build out these engaging conversations, more people are actually interacting. So they're actually clicking through and actually doing what you want them to do, and you're leading them down that adventure. So whatever that next step is for day 5, you get them prepped in day 4 as well, what's coming up as well. So that's all the stuff you'd be doing in that day 4, I would say.
I love that. So you got a pre-launch example, you got a launch example. What are other ways that someone out there is going, all right, well, I wonder if it would work for my use case. What's another example of a way you could use a chatbot for the busy parentpreneur out there who wants to automate this and believes in the engagement that you can get through Messenger?
Number one, you can make it's like a Lego, right? You're going to start with one block and then you're going to build more and more, and they can get more and more advanced, right? Because these can get pretty advanced, right? And so when you're thinking about like what other ways you can use this, one other thing in that launch, I would say is don't forget about the post launch, because there's always the experience in the post launch. Once somebody becomes a customer, or if you're doing a one-on-one service, you're a freelancer, an agency, you can onboard your client and things like that, or you can qualify leads or whatever it is to get somebody on your calendar. So there's all these things you can do inside that. Now, one of the quickest ways you can use Messenger to start building your list is using this. They call it the comment to message tool. I kind of briefly touched on it, where it's just like you already create, wherever you're creating content, that's what, Susan, let me take a step back. Wherever you're creating content, you can start using the message bot. If you're creating blog content, if you're posting on Facebook, if you're posting, doing Facebook Lives, if you're doing YouTube, it doesn't matter. Whatever what's working in your business, figure out you can use Messenger to get them on your list quicker, and then you can also learn more about them and get that content to those people as well. That would be the biggest, most simplistic use case that anybody can use in their business is get somebody on their list quick, no matter what channel they're using to create content, and then let them know more about you through their welcome series or whatever you want to trigger after that fact.
Right. So I think, you touched on it a little bit earlier before, where you talked about open rates, but you also talked about going where people already are and communicating with them in a way that they want to be communicated with. So that makes sense. And from an open rate standpoint, I think you mentioned 60 to 80% open rate in Messenger, 20% in email, and it's in like the 90s, I think, from text. But in the hierarchy of open rates, SMS, Messenger, email, is that accurate?
Yeah, totally. And that's kind of what we see here. Now, this, I think this kind of segues nicely to when I was saying earlier about chat marketing. This Messenger bot is just one of the tools that we use in this, because what you just said is about SMS. You continue these conversations, because not only, this is where we start talking about omni-channel, meaning you can communicate in multiple channels to your audience. So you use this Messenger bot you're using. That next message, if I send it in Messenger, you don't respond, I can then send you a text. If I have your phone number, I got your phone number through our conversations. So that's where you can start. This is going back to what you're saying about this glue, is it can start the next level, that next advance is how do I start communicating in additional ways and start taking advantage of these other open rates where people are already communicating at as well, moving forward.
So this is what you've completely shifted your agency to. It sounds like earlier this year. Share some success stories. What are some clients that you've worked with seen from a result of actually implementing a chatbot, or specifically a Messenger bot in this way?
Yeah, totally. So I'll tell you, I'll give you 2 examples right now. One, that's somebody that was just getting started. Like some guy, we met, he was in a ClickFunnels Facebook group. He reached out to me, and he actually lived here in Houston. So we're like, let's go grab coffee. And just chit chat. All he had was a Facebook page, no email list, no website, nothing. He couldn't figure out if he wanted to do more group coaching of this skill that he had, because he had a good skill, or if he wanted to create a course. So I was like, okay. He wanted to do a webinar. So I was like, all right, let's build a bot around this and let's see what we can do. So he spent about 200 hours of Facebook ads. I will say that. We created 2 lead magnets, 3 or 4 page lead magnets, right? Simple lead magnets, checklist kind of thing. Yep. Ran Facebook ads to that. And this is one thing we didn't touch on, is the effectiveness Messenger bot has with Facebook ads and increasing ROAS, or return on ad spend. But long story short, we ran an ad. They clicked on that ad. It opened up a message in Messenger. And then we gave them, we delivered the PDF and got their email address. So with that, we got 736 people. We got inside Messenger on our Messenger list. Out of that, we got about 331 of those people gave us their email address because we gave them the option. Do you want us to deliver this PDF inside Messenger or give us their email address, right? And then from there, we got the goal. The next step was to get them registered for this webinar. From there, we got 221 of those people registered for webinar, or 221, registered for the webinar. 88 showed up live, 54 watched the replay. So we had about 144 people watch that. And then that resulted in 62 people booking a call with him. That was the next step. One thing that we didn't do that we should have done is we should have qualified those people after they booked the call. Came out to about 27 people were qualified. 14 ended up working with him in a group coaching capacity, right? So that's just a full funnel from somebody just getting started, no website, no email list. And this was all in about a 2-week span.
I'm sitting here right now. I'm on my calculator here on my laptop going,
trying to figure out the percentage. Yeah.
That's $3.23 per booked call from a $200 ad spend.
Exactly.
Based on a list. Holy cow. I mean, that's nuts.
And so, and we walked away. So obviously he walked away. Not only that, he had a list of 736 people that he could figure out how to get re-engaged on Messenger, 331 people on his email list. And then, like I said, we started tracking data, kind of like because we started qualifying them. What level were you at with this skill? Things like that. So not only did we have all the information in Messenger, we used it inside his email that he was starting to being able to start sending out email campaigns and nurturing campaigns, start personalize his content. And that was just from, like I said, somebody says, hey, I have an idea, I have a skill set. I want to see if somebody are interested in this, and two, let's just create a couple lead magnets, throw some money at Facebook ads, and let's talk to people or sell them a course or whatever you want to do on that, or take them down a webinar, sign them up for your challenge, whatever it is, like whatever your launch vehicle is or whatever you want to do, your beta course, it doesn't matter. The tools are there to get those conversations going and to nurture those conversations as well. So that's one example. Another example was a lady. She was doing she was a webinar. She did webinar series or a launch. That was her strategy, right? And as we all know, it's kind of like that was kind of the fad a couple years ago. Now you're lucky if you get 30% people showing up and all that good stuff, right? Their stats aren't great for webinar. They can still be effective, but they're not as effective as they used to be. So what we started thinking about was like, okay, how can we take the same concept and let's figure out how we can apply this inside Messenger, leveraging messaging tool, right? And this is a beautiful thing. This is why this is a tool. We can figure out how to use this tool from a strategy standpoint. We started with a calculator. So we're like, to help people self-identify how much this skill was costing or not having the skills costing them. So we had a calculator we built out inside Messenger so people could self-identify that, and it gave us more information. But then what we did is we took that same webinar content and we chopped it up into like 10, 15 minute segments. So that same content, we chopped it up. And then you think
video series, basically.
And think of Jeff Walker's PLF. Yeah. It was do. And then so all of a sudden we're seeing people going back to the open rates. People are seeing the message at these great rates, these 74, 78% range. And then not only that, people are consuming it. So now you got to think about this from a webinar standpoint. When people join, there's always a drop of how many actually people stay through the whole thing and actually could see your pitch at the end. Now I got it to the point where I can keep people engaged, deliver the same content, get them at that level I need to get them at, get my message across, and then get them primed for my pitch at the end of the day, right? And so then you can take that and then continue down the funnel. And now that's where that's just two pretty simple examples. No matter what you're doing, this is why I'm saying this tool is so flexible. You can run a whole challenge through this. If you challenge if that's your launch vehicle, whatever it is, figure out what's already working and leverage. You can use this tool to actually get people engaging and consuming your content. And at the end of the day, get them to go where you want them to go.
So there's challenge launches, there's live launches, there's webinar launches, there's all kinds of different launches. You touched on a couple of great examples on how you can use Messenger and chatbots to engage that. I love the webinar examples. You can take the webinar content. You don't have to recreate anything. You basically chop it up. You turn it into a video series that 80% of people are going to open, and you keep them engaged all the way through in bite-sized chunks, which is, let's be real, how most of us can actually stay engaged in content. We're not going to watch an hour and a half webinar necessarily unless it's really, really drilling home the value and we're super engaged and trying to figure out what that outcome is. I guess my question for you is, are there any types of launches or is there a use case that isn't a good fit for chat marketing?
I hate to say like 100%, but I can't think of one, to be honest with you, because every launch, you have to attract people. You have to communicate what you're doing. And at the end, you have to get people to engage with whatever launch you're doing. And this tool will help in every aspect of that. And I don't care if you're doing it. I'll be honest with you. I have a couple clients that are local businesses that were using this to attract people, to get people inside of an actual building and to engage with it. So it's just like, I deal with mostly with online business, but the reality comes down to it. You can use this in almost, it doesn't matter the type of business you're using, because this is where people are playing at. This is where people are communicating with. And this is where it's going. Because like I said earlier, when Facebook opens up Instagram, when they open up WhatsApp, you're going to be able to not just communicate to the same messenger bot you're building, you're going to be able to communicate to all those channels, no matter what preference those people want to communicate them with you through, right? Pretty soon you're going to start being able to pixel people inside your messenger to be able to figure out, so you can retarget people. So it's just like this tool is only going to grow with, and it's going to be intertwined with how you're dealing with people. So going back to your question, I cannot think of a specific example off the top of my head where this would not be a good fit for having a successful launch.
It's awesome. That's good stuff. Like one of the criticisms that people have, and I think it's because of the name, chat and bot. Like you think live chat, you think bots, and you have a connotation or an idea. The criticism that I typically hear most is, well, that's not going to be a personalized engagement strategy. I want to be real. I don't want to come across like everybody's generic and gets the same stuff. So personalization is something that I think, rightfully so, digital marketers and entrepreneurs are really focusing on, because we are people. We all have personal brands. You're selling to real people. Real people are buying from you, the human. And so how do the irony in just listening to you kind of paint the picture of WhatsApp and Messenger and pixels and retargeting is that what I'm seeing and thinking through as you say that is, it's not actually less personal. It's going to allow us to be more personal.
100%. Because here's the thing. First off, like if you just forget all the technology, forget everything. Let's just talk about conversations for a second, okay? Because if me and you are sitting here having a conversation right now, right? And at the end of the day, we've shared information, both of us, that we're going to remember, that we're going to be able to bring back in the future conversations we're going to have, right? And so right now, instead of me just sending an email, which is really, it's supposed to be bi-directional, but it's really just one direction. How many people are going to actually sit there and reply and take the time to reply? And you can go check your inbox, and that lag of time. It's not this real-time conversation, right? So whenever somebody's engaging, and this is why it's so important to have a strategy on how you're, like, what words and messages you're using inside your bot, because you can get a lot of information, what people like, what their preferences are, what are actually people engaged with. And this is where personalization ties back to your question, is because instead of me just sending a blast to everybody on my list, if I know what you're actually interested in, I'm going to refer to you by name, you going back to like how to influence people, just use people's first names in conversations, right? That's just conversation 101 or influence 101. Then you're going to be able to understand not only what are they interested in, how do they prefer to be communicated with. If you come through one of my channels or one of my funnels personally, if you're getting one of my lead magnets, I'm going to ask you, do you want me to email this to you? Or do you want me to give you this in Messenger right now? Your choice. Now, if you say email, cool, I'm gonna get your email address, I'm gonna deliver it, and it's gonna automatically deliver that to you. And then I'm gonna have a follow-up question with you inside my Messenger. So now I'm actually can continue that conversation. And so at the end of the day, that's where it's coming down to. It's just like, no, it's a beautiful thing at the end of the day when you can do all this stuff right. So.
But it can be really overwhelming in terms of like, all right, how, and I think that's the funny part. And I've had this conversation already multiple times in these summit sessions with people, is like, when you think about it, it can be really overwhelming. Where do you go? You could design this crazy, huge, complex funnel. Yeah. Is there a way? I mean, I'm listening to what you're saying, and you're talking about gathering information and being able to respond to people's preferences in real time and truly personalize that communication experience as if it's a real conversation, because it is. But is there a sequencing way? Because I'm thinking that you're replacing quizzes, right? We all talk about like, well, ask your audience what they want.
Yes.
Through chatbots, through Messenger, you can sequence in a normal human cadence getting that information, rather than be like, hey, would you do me a favor and click this SurveyMonkey link and spend 10 minutes answering A, B, C, D questions?
Yes, because I asked you a question inside it, and I can either give you one of three options. I either can put blocks or buttons that you can choose from with specific answers in it. I can these things called quick replies, which are like little bubbles, or I can have you type something back to me, right? That's how you can communicate back to the messenger. And whenever you give me that information, I can then remember it, because in a sense, it can be stored on that profile, and then I can share that with your email service provider, whatever you want to use with that information with the quizzes. So, but like you said, it's in a one-on-one conversation. Now, one other thing I just want to make sure your audience is aware of too is it can also, like, you as a human or somebody on your team can always jump in and have this, and it can actually there's always ways, and I build them in all my clients and my personal one. It's like, If somebody wants to talk to human, I let them talk to human, and it will notify me, hey, someone wants to talk to you. So then you can start weeding people out, but you can still always have that personal touch.
And it stops that automation too at that point too. They say, I want to talk to a person. You're not going to get the next automated message in that sequence.
Exactly. So like I said, but yeah, going back to it, if you do it right, it can be simple. And there's a lot of simple things you can do with it to have the effectiveness that it can have on your business.
I want to just let you bust some myths outside of the personalization one. What are some of the other common misconceptions that you see around chatbots that you want our audience to understand are not actually real reasons to not, at least at minimum, see if you can use these in your business, or, go ahead and go implement one and start testing?
Yeah, totally. So one I've heard before is it's a fad or they've peaked, right? It's like, and that's what I was saying is that wild, wild west where, and it comes down to the Facebook crackdown here, and I'll talk in a second. But basically, it's just like with any tool. Like us marketers, a lot of people just ruin them, right? That's what happens. Tools come out and people ruin them, right? And then rules get put in place, right? Why do you think we have spam laws and things like that? Because people ruined email marketing at the end when it first came out, right? They were spamming. And it was the same thing that happened with messengers. Like you could just literally send out a message. If you want to quickly build a list really, really quickly, like 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 people really, really quickly, and then just blast this list. And all of a sudden you're like, and then you got to remember, Facebook's main job is to make sure their users have a great experience so they stay on their platform. So of course they're going to come and play. So that's you had this peak, everybody's on it. And then all of a sudden everybody left because no one can really do what's really happening. And all of a sudden it's like, now Facebook put rules in place. And it's like, great, thank you, Facebook. I appreciate it because now we can actually sit down and use this tool how it's intended to be used, right? And so that it's peaked, no, it's just getting started because, like I said before, there's a lot of things that are going to be happening that are going to be connected to this main hub as Messenger, your Messenger bot that's going to be feeding and growing your business coming forward. So that's one, Messenger's peaked. The other one is it's complicated. I can't get started, or it's I'm not going to worry about it because it's just another tool that I got to worry about having, or is another one, right? And the reality comes down to it is a lot of these things I was saying might sound complicated, but the reality is it's just like with any other tool. Everything sounds complicated till you actually understand it and actually learn it. And this goes back to my experience in my startup. Yes, eventually as a digital CEO, you're not going to be the actual executioner on this tool eventually. But before you outsource any tool, you got to understand, you have to understand the tool itself before you can start outsourcing it and have somebody else build it for you. And I encourage people to at least have an understanding around it. So pay attention because this tool's not going anywhere. And then the last thing I would always hear is, like it's replacing email, right? Or things like that. And I'm telling you right now, this is not an either or, this is an and. And the reality is email's still gonna be there. It's not going anywhere. Right. But the reality is conversations changing, but you gotta have multiple channels. And that's your responsibility as a communicator of your message for the receiver to receive that message. And you gotta have the channels in place to get that message to the users where they're already at, where they're comfortable to get that right message at the right time to them. So,
yeah. And you want to do that anyway, because, as much as we all trust Mark Zuckerberg, right? Like you don't want to rely solely on this thing that lives inside Messenger, even if it can create or communicate with WhatsApp and Instagram and do all these things. You still want to pull them off, or at least get information that you can pull off onto an email list. So if Zuck decides, hey, one day I'm just going to blow this thing up, you still have those people. So I think that's one thing that I always want to caution, just really, really bluntly and directly. Don't rely, don't build your whole audience on somebody else's pond without having that information outside of that, because if they change the rules, this whole strategy and your entire business can blow up.
100%. And I couldn't emphasize that much emphasize that even more. And that's like, no matter what your business, the only thing you really own is your email list at the end of the day, right? That's like one of the biggest assets you own. I can have an Excel spreadsheet that I have permission to send somebody an email. I still got to use somebody else's platform to send that message. Right. So I'm still at their expense, but the reality comes down to it is yes, you're using Messenger, which is Facebook owned and all this other stuff, but that's why it's so important to have other channels. And you're using this Messenger as another channel, whether that's SMS, whether that's Facebook Messenger, whether that's Instagram Messenger, whether that's email, whatever it is, but you want to have as many channels as possible to communicate to your audience at some point in time, whatever they prefer. And this tool allows you to be able to understand that preference and then funnel that person to wherever you need to funnel them to be able to have that safety net at the end of the day. Because you got to have a safety net in your business.
Yeah, for sure. For the person out there who's trying to decide right now, like, I wonder if this is something I should be looking at or implementing in my business, what are the questions that they should be asking themselves?
Number one, I always tell people, and I always remind people, this is just a tool, right? This tool is not going to fix a bad offer. This tool's not going to fix, you don't know who you're talking to, your sales messaging, whatever your copy is. Like, this is only a tool, right? And so I don't say you have to have all this stuff in place, because you can use Messenger to test and experiment and things like that. But what I would tell you is figure out what's already working in your business. If you're just getting started, whatever funnel works for you, whatever messaging works for you, whatever email sequence works for you, take that information that already works and then put it into bot writing, is what I call, not copy, bot writing, right? And being able to, then that's when you can replicate that or figure out how you can use this tool to support that, to either get more people into it, get more people through it, or get more people to the end result. So that's why I always tell people is figure out, look at your business, figure out kind of what works. The other thing is figure out, are people joining my list already, right? And how are they joining my list? And then figure out, how can I use Messenger to figure out how can I get more of those people on that platform, whether it's Pinterest, whether it's YouTube, whether it's your blog, or whether it's, because like I said, there's so many tools you can use to get them on your Messenger list. Figure out what's already working. I can't emphasize enough.
Yeah, you can also enrich a list, I would imagine, from Messenger and finding, exactly. I've got an email and a first name, maybe if they come in through Kajabi, but now I want to know, like, do you prefer text messages? Do you want to text before my webinar starts or before the next summit day goes live?
Yep.
I need to gather that information, and Messenger is probably the easiest way to get that.
And the beautiful thing about that, like, I'm glad you brought Kajabi up, because with Kajabi, and you can use some other with the tools in your toolkit. I can then say, if somebody purchased my course in Kajabi, I can then let them know, I can tag them in Messenger, so then they can have specific messaging in Messenger, who customers are, or if it kicks off a specific sequence for an account update, all this other stuff. So this is where, like I say, it's a channel you can communicate as well, but it doesn't matter where they're at in your customer journey, pre-launch, launch, post-launch, wherever they're at. This tool is going to help you get them down that journey quicker and hopefully more effectively by having the engagement along the way.
So it sounds like you could use this at any stage. You mentioned the client, even the physical brick and mortar business, pulling people in. I know restaurants are a good use case for this. My wife's dance studio, there's a way to get people in through Messenger. You mentioned your client, the ClickFunnels group, who really didn't even have a website and just wanted to dabble. But is there, if you were to say this is the ideal stage of a business, or the perfect customer or use case for a chatbot is doing these things from a revenue standpoint, list standpoint, converting funnel standpoint, what is that? And is there on either end someone who should not go this route yet until they get to a certain point?
Yeah. So honestly, you're gonna, if you're spending any money on Facebook ads, I don't care what level you're at. If you're spending any money on Facebook ads, highly encourage you to leverage Messenger ads, which is going to be you're using a chatbot associated with that. But from like a revenue standpoint, no, because I know of people, I have use cases, I have clients that are in 4 figures making their money, or they're in the, 4 figures just getting started in their business, that are using chatbots to build their audience, communicate, get clients, qualify clients, whatever it may be. And then I got people that are 5, 6, 7 figures that are crushing it because it's just like, okay, we at that level, they already know what works. They know their messaging. Yeah. They know exactly. Now it's like, we can supercharge all their information and their channels and understanding more about them and get their message out to more people. So it's like, there isn't really, unless you like do not have any idea of what you're doing, go do some customer research before you start paying money for tools, things like that. But
there's a long rabbit hole of things you could go down in Facebook they're so constantly changing and evolving. The rules are different. There's different ways to use it. There's what's working now. So I don't want to dig into that too much, but I do want you to touch on, there's a lot of people in the audience that do spend money on Facebook ads, or certainly are planning to once they get their offer put together. Talk about the connection between Messenger bot in particular and Facebook ads, and just kind of you mentioned return on ad spend.
Yeah. What
are the metrics compared to just your normal Facebook ad to maybe pull somebody off site to an external webinar registration page, for example?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I can't give you a specific number on that, just because I have clients that are like, they're so different, right? But what I can tell you here, if you just think about this from your funnel, your Facebook ad funnel from a perspective, is you're running an ad on Facebook, and you're running a lead ad, or you can run a conversion ad, or whatever it may be, to send them to a landing page.
Yep. You
fill out a form to submit their information, and then take them to the thank you page, things like that, right? What happens, obviously, every step along the way, you're losing people along that funnel kind of thing, right? So now what happens now is when you run a Facebook Messenger ad, is that from when somebody clicks on that ad, it opens up a message in Messenger, which is the welcome message for this ad, for this campaign. And then whatever you're trying to get them to sign up for, engage with, whatever can happen inside that message, inside Messenger, and leave them. And then you can continue that conversation. Like I said, instead of just having a thank you page, tell them where they want to go to next, let them know what's upcoming, things like that. But the powerful thing is, right when they click that welcome message and engage with that messenger the first time, I have them at least on my messenger list. So I have at least a way to communicate back with them versus those people that click on and land on my page, or my landing page, that don't ever leave their information. I have to spend money to retarget those people to get them back into my funnel. Now, at least I have them on my messenger, and then easily get them on my email list through that messenger conversation. So that's the most simplistic way to leverage messenger, the messenger message, to be able to increase your ROS or ROAS, because you're going to capture more people inside the funnel. And then, like I said, once they're in there, you're going to actually pull out more data than you would ever be able to pull from just having somebody fill out an email form.
And so that happens. They don't have to give you their email address. That's just data that's passed from Facebook when they engage with that ad and therefore with that first message. So you don't have to ask them for their email address in order to still be able to add them to your broadcast list or count them as a subscriber in Messenger.
Totally. Nope. And so then once, because here's what happens. Facebook basically says you cannot communicate to anybody through your messaging, your Facebook page, unless they've actually communicated with you first. And what they mean is they've clicked a button, they've actually sent you or they send a message, they clicked on a link that send it. Because even if you just give them a link and to send them to a message, that actually, as soon as you click on that link, that's opting in. So they get on your list quicker. And then that's why I tell my clients all the time, it's like, you don't always have to be in such a hurry to capture their email address. Yes, you always want to capture their email address, but you don't give them a good reason to give you an email address, right? Yeah. Have that conversation when it happens. And I'd actually, right before we jumped on the call, a lady sent me a message on Facebook. She was like, about the new rules and how to re-engage. She's like, well, I'll just ask them on January 5th, 10 days for the new rules. I'll just ask my whole list for their phone number to text them. I was like, no, like it's just like email. You can't just ask someone just for, hey, give me your information so I can update you. Like you got to give them a reason why, and you can have this in this natural conversation through this adventure and get more information than just asking somebody to fill out their on a landing page. Or if you still want to send them to a landing page, get them on your list, engaging your bot, give them a button, then send them to your landing page. At least you have their information right then and there. So lots of different ways that you can increase your ad spend or return on ad spend with Facebook ads or with Messenger, and it's only going to get better. They're only going to open up more ways for you, like I said in the beginning, to pixel. So now if somebody goes down a quiz and doesn't finish it, I can retarget them through a sponsored message inside messaging, inside the messaging platform, things like that. So that's not coming. That's not available right now. Like, I don't know. I don't work at Facebook. I'm just saying that's coming from industry leaders, I would say.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense too. So some people right now, it might be you, they are totally overwhelmed. And you're like, what in the actual am I listening to? And I don't understand. Like, whoa, slow your roll. So Jordache, I want to give you a chance to if there's one thought that you want every busy parentpreneur who's in a digital space or using digital products or communication strategies to bring people into their sales funnel and be able to sell whatever it is that we're selling. Yep. What's the one thing you want us to know about chat messaging?
If you don't pay attention, now you're going to be left behind. I'm telling you that right now. It can be overwhelming, and just because you can see I kind of paint a picture with the potential and things like that. But where it's at right now, there's so many tools out there that do not make it that make it very simple, right? And like I said before, email. When you set up your first email sequence, you were probably scared out of your mind, like, oh my gosh, like this automation is going to happen. All these messages are going to automatically go out to these people I've paid for that sign up for my list. And so you're always going to have these concerns just getting started. We're in this era, this conversational era. We went from the outbound era to the inbound era. Now we're in this conversational era where people want to have this conversation engaging. I'm telling you, you have to pay attention. So what I would tell you right now, if you do not know anything about chat marketing, chat bots, whatever it may be, you need to go just do a Google search and you can find people to start following, to start paying attention to what's going on in this space, because I'm telling you, it's going to impact how you're doing your digital, how you're using your digital business. Now, if you want to get started with this, there's a lot of it's a tool. There's a lot of free information out there to learn how to use this tool, right? It's not so much about the tool. It's the effectiveness comes with the strategy. So you just need to start learning about this tool just like you would any other tool, because this tool is going to have a big impact in how you serve your audience, how you attract your audience, and how you communicate and engage with the audience.
Really well said. And before I let you go, what's your number one parting piece of advice for that parentpreneur out there who's considering building or investing in a chatbot strategy in the next few months?
Two things. Understand why. Why do I want a chatbot? Why do I want a messenger bot? Like, what is my goal with this? And remember, it's a Lego process. So you might just have one goal, and that's what we're going to start with. And then you're going to build another goal or adventure and things like that. So number one, you got to be clear on what you want and what you're going to do when somebody comes into your messenger bot, and what you want them to do in it, and what do you want them to do after it, right? You have to have that clarity. I tell clients all the time, if you don't have that, like, we're not going to have a conversation, because you're going to be paying for stuff or having things done that aren't going to lead to customers or sales or better engagement. So that's number one, have a clear idea of what you want to do. And then number two, like I said in the beginning, understand who you're talking to, make sure your offer is good, because this tool is not a magic pill that's going to save your business from a bad offer or from, whatever it is. Like I said, it can help with getting feedback and engagement and things like that at that stage. But you got to have a clear idea of who you serve, how you serve them, and you need to understand why you want them to go through this and what you want them to do when they go through this messenger bot.
Yeah, I mean, you're a very smart dude. You've got a lot of amazing information to share. I know there's people out there that want to connect with you. Where can we go to do that more closely online?
You can find me at my website's botsandprofit.com, BOTS and profit.com. And that's where I'm creating a program to help online entrepreneurs like yourselves learn how to use this tool and the strategies and things like that. So that's something you can go there and find me on that, or I'm on the social medias. It's Jordache Johnson. So you can find me on Facebook, not so much on Instagram. That's going to be Q1. Hopefully next year I might start dabbling in Instagram. I'm just a big believer. You can build an audience on Instagram, but you got your buyers on Facebook. So I might be biased though. So
I love it, man. Great stuff. I'd love to have you come on and kind of do a Facebook Live inside my group at one point and kind of go really deep on one of these Facebook ad buying messenger kind of thing. So there's just a ton of value, and bots in general and Facebook, you combine those two things and it's such a black box for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially early stage entrepreneurs. They're like, I get that it's powerful. I get that it works for people, but what in the heck do I do with this?
Yes.
So that's an open invitation to you. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. Listen, Jordache talked about a lot of advanced stuff, but we started about, how to connect to and find your story, what the structure of that story is, how to actually tell that story. And then Messenger is kind of, the gasoline on the fire, so to speak, how to bring people that are hearing your story into your world and push them out to the thing that makes the most sense in the journey. There's a rhyme and there's a method to the madness. So thrilled that you guys are still here. Stick with us. A lot more to come. Jordache, thanks so much, buddy. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it, bud.
Wait. Before you go, did you know that the most successful online businesses are built working in 90-day blocks, prioritizing only the big projects that truly drive revenue and fuel growth? If you want to make next quarter your best one yet, head over to nickmurphy.io/guide to grab your free copy of the 90-day Parentpreneur Planner. Thanks for listening. I'll see you back here on the next episode of the Parentpreneur Podcast.